I'm Vinu Deschetti, Director of Marketing and Sales for Aplusify. Welcome to today's webinar on Fonteva Upgrade Checklist. This is a checklist we've put together and hope that it will be helpful for you. Here at Aplusify, we know that technology quickly changes and evolves. We value learning internally and love sharing what we know. Thank you for joining us. Today, we have Rajiv Gupta as our guest speaker. Rajiv is an experienced Salesforce professional and a Fonteva expert. He heads our Fonteva internal task force here at Aplusify. He and his team of Salesforce experts ensure that our clients get the best out of our Salesforce investments throughout the implementation of industry best practices, lessons learned, and to meet the business complex needs. In this webinar, we'll be talking about what our checklist contains, some of the features that you will benefit from if you upgrade, and then also some issues that might crop up if you don't upgrade, and then things to watch out for as well when you're doing the upgrade. So without any further delay, let's move ahead. So Rajiv, let's get to know a little bit more about who we have on the call today. We've got a few polling questions. I'm going to launch this poll. While Rajiv begins, if you all can take a few minutes to complete this poll for us, we can find out kind of where you are in your upgrade process. And Rajiv, do you want to get us started?
Thank you, Vinu. It's really good to see some familiar names on the attendee list today. I know that all of us in our client list and our prospects are thinking about Fonteva Upgrade. There is a new Fonteva Upgrade on the horizon, 21 winter. Fonteva does have a webinar coming up on Feb 10th. So please do participate to see what's new and the best in Fonteva's arsenal of upgrades and technology. Today we will focus on the just previous release more and all the previous releases, because we know based on your polls and once we see where you are in your journey, it could be possible some of you may be on 2019, some of you we know are even on older releases, 2018. Fonteva today does not support anything prior to 2018, and soon 2018 might not be a supported release. That's really up to Fonteva. My job today is to make sure I walk you through what you should be thinking about. If you are our client, then our team should be following these steps as well. If you see any chances of improvement in process using this Fonteva upgrade path and the checklist, that would be an easy win. Vinu, do we have the results of the polls? I see one of the biggest concern among all of our participants today is if the system is working, why touch it? It might break the way system currently works. Afraid that the upgrades will break something that's not broken. And the second biggest concern is you need to know what all to do to upgrade, and understanding if the upgrade is really necessary. So I think we should be able to cover all of your concerns in today's webinar. And please do share your questions so that in case I can address that along the way, I will. If not, after the webinar. And since some of you are already scheduled to receive recording, please do exchange questions. We are happy to answer them. What if you don't get upgrade? That is one of the questions you had. I think easiest way of looking at it is software and cars are slightly different. So cars, as long as it works, Toyotas sometimes run 23, 24, 25 years, 200, 300K miles. So you don't really need to upgrade. You keep changing the tires and service, it does work. And similarly, many other products do. However, software uh, is called software because it is easy to upgrade and it is continuously evolving um, as we speak. So let's take the scenario. If you do not upgrade, you do not have the best functionality available within the Salesforce ecosystem, and Fonteva is continuously improving. And should you decide not to upgrade the previous version and you are really old, then if there is a security issue and Fonteva does not support the release, then they will not provide a patch, and then the vulnerability is high. So one such event recently happened around October or November timeframe, where Salesforce had changed the guest profiles in anticipation of hacking potential. And that change of the feature and functionality in Salesforce uh, forced all the apps and every single solution that sits on top of Salesforce that utilizes guest profiles within um, community portal had to change. And you all would have seen the patches were to be installed in your org prior to Salesforce making changes. And generally, Salesforce make these changes in over the weekends, 2 or 3 weekends, and those emails are sent to the Salesforce admin email that you have. So those emails are useful to watch. Let's look at Fonteva 20 Spring 1. What's in it for you? That will also perhaps motivate um, in some way. Should you even consider upgrading? And if it is a supported version, how long do you have to upgrade? So one of the best use of defining Fonteva as a product is it is used by all of our clients and all of you to transact payments for member interaction with your organization. So members are purchasing memberships, or they are paying for events, or they are purchasing other products and services from your organization. And products and services generally have revenue recognition cycle. Now, within that revenue recognition cycle, if they are paying by credit card and there is no deferred or there's no AR, they pay and they get it. It's fairly simple. Most systems can do it, but for associations, it's not that simple. So there are 3 scenarios are at play. Some organizations pay receive payments via checks, and some even receive payments via check 3, 4, 5 months later. So there's always an invoice and AR sitting in your books. And practically 99% of you I see in attendee list have a mechanism of deferred payment. So I collect association due of $100 or $120 for next 12 months. Now, you are not recognizing $120 in your books today, and based on what the parameters are, you may be deferring recognition of revenue. So with all that complexity in finance, Fonteva has simplified invoice and sales order objects in 20 Spring, where it is under one object, and that combines and simplifies the data structure underneath. It is utilizing 3D Secure 2.0 technology, has better compatibility for the guidelines for accessibility for various reasons. If somebody who needs accessibility help and they are on Fonteva website, it is much better compliant. Better events and login registration process sharing set has been improved in 20 spring. So what does that mean? If you're not using events, it really doesn't matter to you. If you're using events module uh, within Fonteva, it is very interesting development. And the final, if you are an international organization, and I think one or two I see, and you have a requirement of launching sites in French and Spanish and uh, other languages, the translation is much more and much easier in this version of Fonteva. Um, we will send it to you. You can keep it, but easiest way of looking at this upgrade benefit is your your accounting team really will be happy once they see it's a simplified reporting for them, from AR, AP, and all the transaction lines built in under one object and one reporting. So multi-dimensional reporting is easier, even without creating a complex reporting underneath Salesforce. Many of you who know reporting engine in Salesforce should be able to create reports once you see the underlying structure. Events login functionality. Uh, this is simplified. Single form for each event registration is available, so that you have a better user experience for your users. Let me take a step back. What all that really means to an organization such as yourself? There are two different independent as well as without anybody's control. The two events are happening every year. So one event is where nobody has any control. Salesforce, you have signed a contract with Salesforce where Salesforce will decide when they are releasing and upgrading your Salesforce. And they publish the dates in advance. They are currently on winter 21 release, and soon there will be another release, and they generally have uh, uh, 3 releases every year, and the timings are more predictable. And the second set of solutioning that you all have, if you have joined this webinar, you have Fonteva software that has been installed on top of Salesforce. And these are current supported releases. Do you see 2018 R1, 2018 R2, 2019 R1, and Fonteva 20 Spring? There's Fonteva 21 Winter is coming up, and you all would have received notifications for webinar. Now, in this manner, when there are two separate um, channels of software upgrades are being provided, it becomes confusing. We just upgraded uh, Salesforce. I saw the email, why should I upgrade to Fonteva, is a normal question I answer in most of our first initial calls, where it's important to understand you have two different software that you're using. So uh, first one is relevant when your Salesforce admin has to really go through the emails and make sure you test on the release using Salesforce provided instructions to see if you're testing and if your Salesforce related use is all available. And one of the questions you all answered, why should I upgrade? And if I upgrade, will it break the functionality? It could really happen without even you knowing, unless you're following through the instructions and testing paradigm, even for the releases that you have within Salesforce. And that is not at all within anybody's control. So The next dates are March 9th, 2021. Please have your Salesforce admin go through um, these security emails. If there is a change, they should be testing and making sure it all works. Fonteva 21 release is coming up. Fonteva 21 winter. I don't know if there are questions, Vinu, so far. I do
Yeah,
not.
we don't have any questions yet, but just as a reminder to everyone, definitely feel free to ask those questions in the chat or in Q&A.
Let's
So,
keep
Rajesh,
going.
let me ask you this. I think one of the other things to keep in mind is when to know, other than having this calendar just ready at hand, what are the best ways to make sure that you get notices that an update is coming or a release is coming, and how to get access to those notes? Is there, should you keep in contact with your CSM at Fonteva, or what are some of the best ways that you would recommend for that?
So Salesforce emails only go to the admin account. So let's say for our organization, aplusify.com, and our main master user or system admin user is called sysadmin@aplusify.com. That is the only email that will receive notification from Salesforce with the security update relevant to us, dates relevant to us. And there could be one or many Salesforce admin for any organization. Fonteva related upgrades, if you are not receiving notification, I think CSM is the right starting point so that you are part of the community. They do a good job in Fun community in going over all of these notifications. Everybody from the Fun community will receive notifications. Let's dive little bit deeper in 20 Spring release and various versions. So what has happened since 20 Spring release? There have been 3 even patches since then. So what you are seeing currently, 20 Spring 1.3. And these patches are normal for any software, in even on Windows. Sometimes when you restart, it says I'm upgrading. Wait for Microsoft upgrades to be installed on your computer. I will be surprised if you are using Microsoft products and you have not seen that blue screen that says wait for upgrade. And similarly, enterprise software like Fonteva has to do the same. And these patches are normal procedure. The only difference is your Salesforce admin has to manually make these changes because it is not a push technology and it cannot be push technology. Otherwise, you do run into a risk of breaking your customizations. The concern that you have is a valid concern, but there is a process to mitigate that risk. Some of the easiest way for you all to look at it, what happens in a release, and why it is a little bit work to make sure release works for you. So when you think about a system like Fonteva, there are 3 different sections of the software. Software piece, which you all see or your members see, is written in Visualforce pages, or it's the front end. Then there is a core Salesforce Community Cloud and Salesforce Sales Cloud technology and tables and objects, which are called specific standard Salesforce objects. And the third area is where you will see that the customization that has happened during the implementation over time, specifically for your organization, and Fonteva standard objects might have changed as well over time in different releases. So each release, to sustain any changes in the functionality, it is normal to assume there will be some fields and some objects that will be deprecated, and some fields and some objects will be introduced because it's a transaction system. It needs to hold data in a database which can be reportable, which can be used for your connections with other software. You may have a learning management system, you may have an accounting system integrated, you may have a donation system integrated, you may have an advocacy software integrated, you may have your marketing tools integrated, and all of those interfaces are, or maybe dependent on some of the newly introduced fields or deprecated fields. And I don't want to go in the direction of going over specific fields, but think about 20 spring release. Invoice object is gone. So as soon as you upgrade your release to Spring 20, all the data that was sitting in invoice object is not available to anybody unless you migrate that data from invoice object to sales order. And that migration is not as if you pour a cup of water from one cup to the other. You need to match field by field. What does that field mean and what does the new field mean? And it is an exercise of mapping that one has to go through.
So Rajiv, so this basically what you're saying is that there are old fields that used to be there, and now there's new fields. The old fields are gone, and so if we have templates in our system, especially like invoices that are based off of the old fields, those templates are no longer going to work, and that's why we need to map it to the new fields that are made available.
Yeah.
So that affect our members, our donors. Invoices is just one example of what might be affected, correct?
Invoice is just one area, but for each release, Fonteva, and I was going over on the web page, let me switch to another browser. If you see, Fonteva has release notes. So your Salesforce admin or developer, if it is Aplusify, your lead is going through each release and mapping it with what's being used. That's why that analysis upfront is needed. But if you uh, are the admin, please go through Fonteva documentation and see what these release really means to you. You have the update checklist, you have a specific fields. They are removing fields which are being added for each different sections. Schema updates is what I'm referring to, where you can see um, what's the new object, what's the new field, and reason for adding or reason for removing. This is where you need to see if this field or this object which is added or removed is going to impact your version or installation or not. And this URL, I can, it's really, if you, all I did was Google search Fonteva release of documentation. It is maintained by Fonteva.
And I've actually put some of those links into the chat functions. So hopefully that'll make it easier for y'all to take a look. One of the things I think also we've talked about this in previous webinars is checking on that user experience. So anytime you are planning on making a change or like an upgrade or you've implemented some kind of change, you want to keep testing what that UI experience is. So whether it's that joining process that could be affected or that invoice, taking a look at that, and maybe even whether it's yourself or dedicating a team that looks at certain forms, but making that assignment so that you can hopefully catch an error before it's public facing to your members or donors.
Thank you, Vinu. And that falls under the analysis. So first step before upgrade that our team really is involved in figuring out what are the customizations in place, what process builders you have, what VF pages you have, what are the objects which have been added, and is there a parallel scenario to bring data from another object into these new objects? Is there a way to do it automatically, or do we need to do some of the data transition manually? Do you even have a full sandbox if there is a data transfer happening then we would like to test in full sandbox prior to going in production. If not, we just want to discuss the risks with our clients to make sure you understand that there could be a period where there may be issues that membership team, your events team, they all should be testing together. Impacted integration, if you have 4 or 5 different connections between Salesforce, which is usual and should be. If you're using Salesforce as system of records, it's important that every other part of the organization, accounting, events, membership, your reporting engine, all that is getting fed from Salesforce. So the Salesforce is the single source of truth. If Salesforce data is respected, then connections are important. And then test case documentation. These cases, only membership team knows sometimes. I have gone in implementation, entire implementation team leaves right after the implementation. There's really no continuity and availability of documentation. And what are the test cases? What are the scenarios that have been configured within Fonteva and Salesforce? So documenting them prior to upgrade is a good idea. In the absence of funds and non-availability of those test cases, it is really necessary to block time with your membership team if you're using membership product, or your events team if you're using events product, so that they can validate and run through scenario. But the good bit of documentation during that process will help in the future. So that will be a good time to assign membership team. Let's document all the scenario. Even then, not all the scenarios will be possible to document. It is a comprehensive system, and that's why uh, legacy institutional knowledge is useful. Now, during the upgrade, we would like to freeze code. What does that mean? That means is all your regular support. I think we should put a halt on. Otherwise, in the absence of multiple sandboxes, so very large organizations, some of our clients are $1 billion enterprises, there are 20 sandboxes available. So each project has its own sandbox and development and production pathway. But in smaller organizations, or where technology is just part of the puzzle, but not entirely a very large footprint, generally you might have 1 or 2 sandboxes, and you might want to make sure you don't end up changing on midway on production directly, because those changes need to be brought on sandbox the way your upgrade testing is happening. Otherwise, you might lose them when you push that upgrade to production. We definitely would like to suggest that Spring 20 or 20 Spring should happen on at least partial sandbox, because there's so much data that is moving and testing needs to happen. Preferred is upgrade on sandbox, a full sandbox where all the data. What is the difference between full and partial sandbox? So the data is the limitation. In full sandbox, it's a replica exactly of the production data and production code as of the date of the refresh. So the testing allows us to test on that data without impacting users, without impacting real records, and making sure we are testing against the correct data. It is a data-driven system, so testing on the real data is crucial. If full sandbox is not available, I know it is very expensive to keep full sandbox, so at least partial sandbox is necessary. Uh, your data transformation has to happen in advance of your upgrade. Now, what does that really mean? So let's say I start my upgrade process on January 30th, and my upgrade process is not going to happen overnight. I'm going to work on the sandbox on from January 30th to say March 10th. Now, on your production system, I refreshed my database on January 30th, there are transactions happening. Your data is changing. You are receiving new membership payments. You are you are sending emails. You have messages going back and forth. Your data upgrades between those, say, 6 weeks period. So unless I transform the data using scripts, um, how would I transfer or make those changes to the data that is on production? So a typical uh, case that we take, we create a scripts that will transform the data, test those scripts on Sandbox, maybe one or many times. And after that, we uh, do the same exercise using scripts, not using manual intervention of data transformation on production, so that those scripts transform the data on production as well over the period of 1 or 2 or 3 hours or 4 hours based on your data size, uh, as opposed to manually changing data on the production, which can take weeks to do it. So the right way of transforming data is through scripts. It's a one line item where you really have to spend quite a bit of time in mapping, making sure scripts are uh, properly tested for the production rollout. User acceptance testing and training is an area where everybody in the user group should participate. Make sure you can do your job on Sandbox once the system um, goes live with the new release. For example, one of our clients, we did everything possible, but towards the end of the user acceptance testing, we found that the way Spring 20 or 20 Spring handles the shipping cost is different than previous releases. So if we had moved forward with the upgrade without getting all of those scenarios tested, we would have missed it. And only the users would tell your shipping is too expensive. It used to be $20. Now it calculates it on the basis of products. So it could be more unless you manage it correctly. So these considerations have to be tested in advance of going live. We had to change path, delay the release of upgrade just based on one single consideration, and that can happen. It's important to maintain continuity and not do it in rush. And once you have completed the all the things on your Sandbox after upgrade, it is important on the day of upgrade to do some real sanity check. You can call it product verification testing, you can call it sanity check, you can call it post go live testing, where 1 or 2 hours everybody is given, let's test it, see if really there are no surprises. Because from that point on, uh, generally there is no rollback plan available in uh, in Fonteva Upgrade, unless you use a system like own backup or some other authenticated backup mechanism to make sure your data is backed up. Uh, Backing up system schema is easy, but data backup is not. So unless you are using automated backing up mechanism in your org, if you go live, you go live. There's no going backwards on the release on production, because it is more expensive to go back as opposed to keep fixing the issues. So more testing you do before going live will save those hassles and all the inconveniences you may anticipate to your members.
And this kind of goes back to what you have in the first column as well, the test case documentation, just documenting the whole process through any changes you make in the system, right?
So this is not the change testing. We know it is test cases, so scenarios that will be the outcome, how members interact with the system, how e-commerce works, what membership types are. It is not the change documentation. It is on the basis of testing the system from the end user perspective.
Okay. We do have a question, and it's I'm going to ask it now. It may not be at the right point, but I think let's get the question answered if you don't mind. So we're asked, what Fonteva objects do we need to create sharing rules for in order to continue successfully use guest user to register? Salesforce says no edit access for guest user, but then how can a guest change stuff during the registration process?
The guest cannot change it during the registration process. That's the limitation. That's the Salesforce enforced way of protecting the data. So it is, I think, Kyle, we should set up a time where we can go over specifically of your org, but it is not as simple as it used to be prior to that release. So I don't have an umbrella answer for your question because it really depends on many factors. I do not see any other questions. Uh, so I'll take 5 more minutes for going over one other upgrade that you may all be hearing, that Lightning community upgrade, which maybe you have upgraded, maybe you have not, but this is something you might be considering. The community cloud is a software itself where Fonteva is hosted, if you will. And just like any other piece of Salesforce Classic versus Lightning community is the technology that Salesforce support, and they will be at some day in very near future where Salesforce will say all the Classic products will not be supported. And when Salesforce says that, which means actually it is not supported, not available at all. Right now, you can toggle in your staff view between Salesforce Classic and Salesforce Lightning. But for community, it is a different story where you need to really upgrade the software, which is a portal. There's no automatic upgrade available. It is not that difficult though, but you still need to make sure you upgrade to Lightning community. And the checklist is very similar, except there are 2 differences. Difference number 1, Lightning community is generally not impacting your data schema. Data structure is not changed. So your data transformation needs are not there. The second change is, but Lightning community is impacting user experience. So it is a good time to reevaluate UI from the marketing perspective. Does it make sense to try to upgrade on page by page basis, or rethink about it, because now these are Lightning components that you can build various functionalities in your community. Other than that, those 2 changes, this upgrade checklist is exactly similar. You have to prepare test cases, you have to do testing, you have to involve users for user acceptance testing. We generally like in our Jira clear and explicit sign off from the project owners that yes, they have tested. So that allows some sort of discipline across our organization to make sure we follow the process. So I'm at 1:40. We have some more time for question and answers. If there are no questions, I have some more material to cover. If you all have questions, I think we can address those questions from all of you.
So Rajiv, one question would be, with the upgrades, can you jump from, if you're on an older version, like an R1, can you jump to the latest, or do you need to do this sequentially?
It does not need to go live to intermediate versions. However, technically, since data is changing, The technical team has to do it in its steps. They have to upgrade from 2018 R1 to the next version, make sure data is transformed properly and tested to some extent. Then their scripts need to be run to transform that data to the next version of data schema so that they combine the data changes from one release to the latest release. There could be two intermediate steps. Uh, so reduces the cost of testing. That's what it, if you are jumping multiple versions at a time, you can save some time, but it has to be done. You won't see the difference, technical team will.
Well, why don't we talk a little bit more about the next slide, which I think kind of addresses the fear a lot of people have. You know, how do I avoid doing the wrong thing? I think some
Thank
of the
you.
things.
So it looks like I did a good job. So there are really no questions. But let's go over lessons learned. Uh, uh, these are the mistakes I have made it in my uh, several years of working in Salesforce and 2 decades of software development, and you all can very easily. If you can avoid, I think it is possible. So data transformation plan and testing is where we generally have seen, we have come across cases where somebody just press the button on production, it is an upgrade available, let me upgrade. And that created so much pain for across the organization. Members could not transact for months because the person who was upgrading didn't know that it is not a simple upgrade. You have to consider data transformation. You just cannot, it's not like Microsoft Office upgrade where there's really no underlying data and you can upgrade yourself without thinking about anything. The critical updates prior to sandbox refresh. Uh, so any work that you have at priority, which you may be working and maybe midway, not tested, not released. When you refresh Sandbox, you will lose everything because all the partial work done will be replaced by what's on production. And I've done this mistake. I forgot to move some of the developer work, or not just mine. You may have multiple contractors, multiple parties working on one sandbox. You need to make sure you get a sign off from that. Have they backed up their work so that you don't delete their work after the refresh. We did touch about freezing regular updates during the upgrade process. That's a possibility you need to worry about. Um, if funds are unlimited, I think I've seen multiple different teams working in upgrades or different uh, activities keep happening, and there is a process to accommodate it. It's not one size fit all. It really depends on your situation. But somebody has to keep track of what was updated during the upgrade process. Because let's say if I change, if I am upgrading and during that 6 week period of upgrade, if I make changes to any of the forms and fields and layouts and data structure, I need to make sure that is accounted for during testing during the final few days. PVT or production verification testing is very important. Sometimes what we have seen, despite the fact we tested, there are two scenarios which were missed, and it's normal. And as you might have seen, if you have a lot of customization, it is possible that you might miss, and that's where production verification testing by membership team for member products and events team for events product is very, very important. And prepare a rollback plan in scenarios. Now, there's really no rollback plan for the Fonteva upgrade unless you have a system in place to back up your data. If you're not backing up your data in some automated way, it will be very hard to roll back. So you go live and then you keep fixing the issues. It's more expensive to roll back than to keep fixing the issues. But theoretically, it's possible to roll back. If you prepared well, you have experienced staff to make sure they know how to restore to previous setting before go live and what steps to take. So with that, I am concluding, we know, today's prepared portion of the webinar. I have time as long as it takes to address other questions, but um, thank you for joining us. Did you have any other questions, Vinu, or anybody in the audience?
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, again, you can use the chat to ask them. Definitely ask that. I do have, well, give you guys some time to come up with your questions. Rajiv, in terms of timing, you know, it's to go live with these changes. There's always something happening in an organization. There's either an annual conference or a major membership renewal or, you know, year-end reconciliations. Is there ever an ideal time to say, okay, we're going to not only according there are plans to make these changes, but the go live date to say, okay, we've done everything we can do, we've tested, we're ready to go, we're ready to release. Do you have a recommendation on when when organizations should go live with their changes? Busy time,
Generally,
slower time?
generally we have to find a slower time. So let's say if organization is using membership product, then the best time is right after you have sent the renewal notices and your maximum renewal activity has happened. This is a good time to upgrade because you may not see such a rush for the next couple of months. If you're using events product and you have a conference coming up, there's no need to touch the system at that point. Uh, it can wait few months, it cannot wait few years, but uh, there's always a way to find a slower time for upgrade during during the year, and it has to be aligned with the business priority.
Yeah. And then the other question is, you know, I think there's also this setting the expectation throughout the organization, especially with the leadership, that this is not a switch that you can turn on and off and say, okay, the upgrade is done. And there's a planning process involved. And in making people aware of some of the challenges that might happen, just to get everyone, you know, aware that this is something that's happening. Is there, you know, one of the questions I'm sure Salesforce admins, Fonteva admins get is, well, how long will it take? And, or if we need to bring in someone to help us with this, what are we looking at in terms of how much time, how much money? Is there a magic answer to that?
I wish there was a magic answer, but um, different companies charge at different hourly rates. And different individuals cost differently. I can only say within our price point that we charge, it is from one version to other is generally, if everything is documented, is sub 200 hours work. So any upgrade within our costing is about roughly $10,000 spent, while um, other companies may be charging more. And one of the challenge that I have seen is really across the board. So if you see where the time is going across all of these pointers, we know. So many times we get in a relationship where the previous contractors or somebody accounted only for software upgrade, and there was a line item in their SOW with their provider that said all the data related upgrades or expenses will be borne outside this scope of work. So as soon as somebody wrote that piece of line, it is a 30 hours work. It itself is not much work, because all you are doing is you are upgrading the software, not really the data. Bulk of the work is in testing and data.
And this is time that you're talking about is with someone that knows Fonteva, knows Salesforce, and can go through this relatively easily because they just understand what the coding and what everything means. What about someone who is not as techie as you? Like if I was to go in there and try to follow instructions, could that be
No, don't
disastrous?
try that. No.
This is why I don't actually work with the clients. But that's why we've got the specialists on hand. But is that, I mean, if I don't have, if I'm an organization, I don't have the budget, I don't have the manpower, but I really want these upgrades. How bad would it be if I went in there and tried to follow instructions to do the upgrade?
I can give you scenarios. It can be really painless. Maybe you're lucky, there's no data transformation need. Your data size is very small and you press the button of upgrade, everything works. Chances of that likelihood are under 1%, because Fonteva like system sits on transactions and data. It's very unlikely that just pressing the upgrade button will do the magic. The second scenario is you upgraded, you took some data considerations and manually upgraded the data as well, or data schema. Chances of errors are quite a many, because you will have a period of time where you will need to think through what all data you forgot to translate or transform into the new data schema. The third approach is if the organization does not have capacity, hiring external team members is an approach that, of course, we are in the business of it, but there are many other developers and experienced staff members across the world that can help in upgrades. But it's not just Salesforce skill that you will need. You will need Salesforce and Fonteva skills. It's not uh, Salesforce as a platform itself is pretty large skill set, ranging from Heroku to Sales Cloud, Community Cloud, Service Cloud, Tableau, and many other areas. And Fonteva is its own data structure is unique. It takes us time as an organization. Now we have over 35 developers trained on Fonteva technology. December alone, we trained about 10 more. It takes us about 6 to 8 weeks to train a developer who already knows Salesforce to know about Fonteva. So it is a skill set that we are trying to develop for the market, and it takes time.
So we have another question here. Currently, we are using Lightning events only. What would be the advantages or disadvantages of using Lightning Community?
If you're using just the Lightning events, perhaps Lightning Community is not being used. Community is used part of the membership product, where you have member portal using the community. So Lightning events is, if you are using Lightning events, this may or may not be applicable for you. And I do not have a clear-cut answer without knowing specifically what you have, but it looks like you may not need it.
Kyle, I think you're going to have a one-on-one with Rajiv soon to answer your questions. So Rajiv, let's wrap it up. Any last words of wisdom you would like to impart on us today?
I think the last slide says it all. We know if all of our guests today go through and make sure they definitely account for the first line item here, data transformation plan and testing. I think that alone will save so much hassle in the future. That is the biggest issue I have seen in most of the enterprise upgrade projects, where something happened with data, or somebody who did not understand data really upgraded.
Well, thank you so much, Rajiv. I know that I have a little knowledge that can be a little dangerous, but it's always great to hear from your side of things because you get your hands dirty in all of this and can really share with us what's really happening. So I appreciate your time today. And everyone else, thank you very much for joining us. This has been a Plusify webinar about how to upgrade within Fonteva. We will be sending you a copy of the slides in the recording, and we actually have a checklist that we'll send your way as well. If we didn't get to your question or you have other questions down the road, Rajiv is always happy to spend some one-on-one time with you. And it's probably more beneficial because then you can really dig into your specific instance. But we greatly appreciate you joining us and hope that you stay warm, well, depending on what part of the country, but you're warm and safe, and we'll see you at the next webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Vinu. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.